So welcome back for video number 2. By the end of this lecture, you are going to know about life in communist Russia, Japan and Germany wanting to expand their empire, what happened at the Munich conference, and what the Nazi-Soviet pact is all about. So get ready to take some notes. So in the last video, we talked about fascism and the rise of Hitler and Mussolini. At the same time that you had Hitler and Mussolini building their armies, Joseph Stalin was in Russia also beginning to prepare his own country for war. And he did that by ordering his people to start producing more goods in order to strengthen his country. He would force farmers to give up their own lands and join communal farms, and this follows the ideology of communism. The farmers that refused to give up their own land and join these community farms were either killed or sent to labor camps. So what was life like in communist Russia? Well, if you were late 3 times to work, you would be sent to Gulag, which is a labor camp, and you would stay there for 3 years. If you made a joke about a government official, you would be sent to the labor camp for up to 25 years. And if you stole something because your family was starving, for example, you could easily be sent to Gulag for up to 10 years. Life in Russia was pretty difficult, to say the least, and Stalin ruled with an iron fist. So shifting gears away from Europe for a little bit, in Asia, you had Japan, and they decided that they also had the right to create empires, just like Britain and France had. Japan lacked sufficient raw materials and markets for its industries, and they also needed land to support its growing population. So for these reasons, they were quite eager to establish an empire. World leaders and most Japanese people were quite shocked when in 1931 Japan's army seized Manchuria, which is a mineral-rich region in northern China. 6 years later, in 1937, Japan resumed its aggression in China and eventually conquered Korea and the French Indochina as well. So they were definitely expanding their empire. So while Japan is building their empire and Italy and Mussolini are busy in Ethiopia, Hitler also decided that it was time for Germany to have their own conquest. So on March 9th in 1936, German troops moved into the Rhineland, which is a region in western Germany along the borders of France and Belgium. The invasion of the Rhineland was an enormous gamble for Hitler for a couple of reasons. First, it violated the Versailles Treaty, which we know was signed at the end of World War I. And secondly, if Britain or France had threatened war, Hitler probably would be forced to withdraw his troops because they were not ready to fight, and he knew that they were not ready to fight. But war was not declared, and Hitler, encouraged by his success in the Rhineland, decides that he wants more land. So a couple years later, in March of 1938, Hitler sends German troops into the neighboring nation of Austria, and he annexes it. Annexing means to incorporate a territory into a country. When Britain and France protested him annexing Austria, he said that German-Austrian affairs were the concern of German people. So basically, he meant stay out of it, it's none of your business. Several months later, Hitler demanded the Sudetenland, which is a region of western Czechoslovakia, heavily populated by Germans. So here he is again, expanding. In an effort to avoid war, representatives from England, France, Germany, and Italy met in Munich, Germany in September of 1938. At this Munich conference, Britain and France agreed to let Hitler have the Sudetenland, hoping that his appetite for territory, or for the expansion of territory, would be satisfied. Britain and France followed a policy of appeasement, meaning giving in to someone's demands, in order to keep the peace. Neither country was prepared for war, and both countries had not forgotten how awful World War I was. So they were really trying to do anything to avoid getting involved in another war with Germany. In 1939, only 6 months after occupying the Sudetenland, Hitler annexed the rest of Czechoslovakia. British and French leaders warned him that if he moved any further, he would be risking war, so they gave him this final warning, but it didn't really mean anything to Hitler. So following the invasion of the rest of the Czechoslovakia in March of 1939, Hitler and Stalin signed this Nazi Soviet pact agreeing not to attack one another. After signing the pact with the Soviet Union, the Nazi-Soviet Pact, Germany invaded Poland on September 1st of 1939. Britain and France had already pledged their support to Poland, agreeing to help them if they were ever attacked by Germany. So 2 days after Germany invaded Poland, Britain and France declared war on Germany, and this is the beginning of World War II. You have reached the end of the video, and by now you should be able to answer the following 5 questions. What was life like in communist Russia? Why did Japan create an empire? What moves did Germany make on the path to the start of World War II? What happened at the Munich Conference? And what is the Nazi-Soviet Pact? If you have any questions about this video or anything that's unclear, make sure you jot them down in your notebook and we'll go over them tomorrow in class.